Knees and toes.
The shoulders have to do with anything?
Because of what you did to my bold prediction. Yes, I'm taking this too far, but I don't care. We're
The
going.
noise is great for those who are audio only.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into a special edition of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Today, we welcome back broadcaster for the Vancouver Warriors, TSN, and the host of Coach's Calls, Brad Challoner. Brad, thanks for jumping back on with us, and how's it been going?
It's going good, man. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having me back. I was in Buffalo in January. It was cold. They gave me a tiny little rental car and said, jump on these toll highways and figure it out. But I love going to Buffalo, and I'm sorry I get to see you guys in person, but maybe next time.
Yeah. What would be one word to describe the Warriors season, 9 games in so far, midway through the season?
I'm going to say progressing. Progressing is my word, because I think this is a team that had expectations were here, right, to start the season with the free agents and a full season of Del Bianco. And I think everybody kind of penciled this team in as contenders, and rightly so, based on how they looked on paper. But they struggled out of the gate against Colorado. They took a while to kind of find offensive chemistry. They struggled 5-on-5. But if you look at their record, they're 6-3. They've won 2 out of every 3 games, and things are getting better. So they're progressing. I still think there's more to come from this team, and that's why that's my word. I think they're trending in the right direction, but progressing with more to come.
Yeah, I think the game last weekend versus Sask could have been a finals preview. And if we get 3 games out of them in the finals, I think everybody's going to be pretty happy about that one.
Sign me up for sure.
So last year felt massive for this team. You know, you get Kurt Malowski, you get Christian Del Bianco at the trade deadline, but this offseason, it was headlined by King, Dixon, Simpson, and Callies. How do you think this team has performed with the amount of eyes on this team and people's expectations in preseason that this is a finals level, championship level team?
Yeah, I think they've done great. Like, to be sitting in 4th place and a playoff started today, they'd be hosting a playoff game like they did last year, like a full season to Del Bianco, more under Kurt Malowski. I think that, they brought in the right guys. Like, yes, I don't think this is talked about enough. Like, yes, Curtis Dixon and Jesse King are elite of the elite, and same with Shane Simpson and Reese Callies, but more importantly, they were guys that Vancouver wanted as men in their locker room. So, you can be the best goal scorer in the world, but if you're not a piece of the puzzle, if you're not the right piece of the puzzle, it's not going to work. So they targeted guys that they had success with as a coaching staff, that knew would come in seamlessly, all egos aside, knew they weren't going to ruffle the feathers with the leaders that are there. So they brought in elite pieces, but they brought in really good locker room pieces. I think that's what you're seeing from this team. You're seeing a team that's fighting for each other. The back-to-back Rochester games and all the motion that came out of that. Now you've taken the defending, or the teams that went to the finals, the first place team right now, to overtime in their own barn on the road. Like, it's a resilient bunch, and I think the chemistry has come together a little bit quicker just because of the right people that they brought in and the familiarity and the way that they just gelled as a team so far.
We'll start at the front gate like we did last year. Keegan Ball has always been an underrated star across the league. With the additions of King and Dixon, they might have even pushed him further into the shadows, but he's leading this team by 21 points. Is it even possible that he's even more underrated this season?
Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like, the poor Keegan Ball. Right? I don't feel too bad for the guy because he's got a pretty good life. But, a guy has his whole NLL career, he's been an underdog or an overshadowed guy, even though he's a perennial 100-point MVP type caliber. And I don't know if it's because Eastern voters go to bed at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. They don't get to see as many Vancouver Warriors games. But, like, this guy has been elite for a long time. And I don't think he's more underrated this year. I think he's just not getting as many headlines. But when you have to game plan for the Vancouver Warriors, he's the first name that you're going to pencil if you're the Buffalo Bandits, if there's Saskatchewan Rush. Like, he is still the heartbeat of the offense. He just has a better supporting cast now than he ever has before. And Curtis Dixon is scoring goals like he's 25 years old, so he's taking a little bit of the shine. But you look at Keegan Ball's numbers, like, he's on pace to lead the league in assists this year for the first time. He's on pace for a career high in points and assists. Like, he might not be as sexy as an MVP pick as a Brett Dobson or a Ryan Keenan right now who's jumped off the page or Jeff Teat even, but he's right there, man. I don't think there's anybody sleeping on Keegan Ball anymore.
So I picked Jesse King to be the MVP this offseason in our bold predictions. He's got 42 points so far, but through the team's first 5 games, he was averaging 3.6 points. The team was averaging 9.4 as a whole, and they were 3-2. But the last 4 games, he's averaging 6. The team's averaging 13, and they're 3-1. Is it too late to write off Jesse King for league MVP? I know he's got to chase Keegan Ball, but is it possible for him to get back in the race with still a half a season to go?
Yeah, you've seen guys like come on really strong in the second half of a season before, and all of a sudden, if he starts managing 7-8 points a night for the rest of the year, and this team pushes for second place and goes on a big run here, you have to see who's leading it if he's the guy. You could. I think it's going to be tough though. Like this team has pretty good rhythm right now. And for Jesse King to go to MVP type level now for the second half of the season, what are you taking away from Keegan Ball? As I think the floor has to kind of balance itself out. So, I'm with you. Like I thought there was a poll someone put out before the season started about who's going to score more points this year in Vancouver: Keegan Ball, Jesse King, or Curtis Dixon. And I thought Jesse King would be the no-brainer to lead the team in assists and points for sure. But it's been Baller's year. Like he's had just the ball in his stick more. He's figured out his chemistry with Curtis Dixon, and he is still the offensive heartbeat. And I think that's what's making Vancouver special is Jesse King and Curtis Dixon are playing different roles than they have in the past, and Keegan Ball is still your guy. So yeah, I think a bit of a hot take there. Everything Jesse King might march back and be an MVP candidate, but preseason I was with you. I thought this was going to be the guy that was going to lead the team all year long.
So a player, while his numbers might not reflect it, that I actually believe is having a better year than last year is Adam Charlambides. I mean, he's no longer asked to be that go-to guy on the left side every single shift. Is he fitting better into this offense, being that 2-man on this offense than the main guy that he's been asked to do for many, many years? Because I remember talking about him last year where you thought he might fit better as a number 2. Is it looking that way with Jesse King over there?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think he's flourished in the role, and you've seen it the last couple of games. Like Jesse King goes quiet, and now Charlambides can pop off for 3. And he's not, he's a good. He can create his own shot. He's not the best feeder in the world, so that's what makes him tough from being a number 1 lefty. Is you need a guy who's going to be able to swing the ball across the floor and find Keegan Ball open and find Curtis Dixon open. He can dish when he's called upon, but he's really a primary. A goal scorer, and a goal scorer who can create his own shot, who can work off of Jesse King and cycle the top and rip those shots from the point. Like that's kind of his bread and butter. And now that he's got an elite teammate in Jesse King, you're really starting to see a different Charlambides. And I think I love the way that he plays. Like he does play with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's chirpy. You see those camera shots. He's always in someone's grill. He's got big celebrations after goals. Like he loves to play heel and rub a little salt in the wound. So great complimentary piece this year. I think it's a perfect role for him to be where he is beside Jesse King.
Yeah, I love those type of players that can just get under the other team's skin, because every team needs one of those guys that takes the attention away from some of the star players. And
exactly. Like you're seeing it, we'll get to Buffalo eventually, but like, they've been completely different without Chase Fraser playing that heel role this year. It's been a big absence. I think maybe bigger absence than people were going to give him credit for. I think this team could just be plug and play, but they've missed a guy like that, and Charlambides is that for Vancouver.
So we can't leave the offense without talking about Superman himself, Curtis Dixon. While he was a little bit quiet in Sask last weekend, he put up 7 first-half goals versus Rochester the week before. So it's a 2-part question. Is he ever going to slow down? And how high can he possibly get with the all-time goal-scoring list? Now, he's at 601 right now. He's 34 behind Gary Gait for 3rd, 67 behind John Grant Jr. for 2nd, and he's 214 behind JT. Now, he's 37, going to be 38 next year, and I did do the math. If he plays another 5 years, he needs to average about 38 more goals in the next 5 years to be able to catch JT, which, when you look at it like that, if he doesn't slow down, it's achievable.
I certainly see him number 2. I think he finishes his career at number 2. And as far as slowing down, like, I think even the final year that he plays, let's say that's in, I don't know when, 2 or 3 years, he's going to go out with a 25 or a 30 goal season. Like, he's just not, you can't just shut the tap off for that guy unless something goes catastrophically wrong. We haven't seen a better goal scorer of this generation. And I think at the end of the day, what did you say? He's about a season and a half away. If he continues the pace this year, he's going to be number 3. If he continues his pace next year, he's going to get to number 2. But I think it's a long way to go to get where John Tavares is. And that just shows how remarkable JT was in, playing 8-game seasons to start his career and then 16-game seasons. Like, the bulk of Dixon's career has been in 18-game seasons in elite offenses. So I'm not saying it's been easier for Curtis Dixon. He's just had more games to do it. So it's just been that remarkable for JT to be where he is. But I certainly think he's an easy lock for number 2 all-time in goals when it's all said and done. I'd say maybe it's in a few more years, but the drop-off is not going to be there because he just takes care of his body. He takes care of his mind. He's selfless. He's adaptable. He's doing different things in this offense this season than he's done before. And he's effective, and he's super smart, and he's super proud. And I think he cares. He wants to win a championship, and that he knows that he needs to score goals for his team to win games and win championships. So, I don't know. Like the drop off. The drop off will be like a 30-goal season in a couple years when he's 40 years old and decides to say peace.
Yeah, and that's a drop off for him, which is
that's
sickening.
a drop off for Dixon's standpoint.
Last one in terms of the offense. Who is an X factor on the offense this year? Now, that could be somebody that needs to step up in somebody else's place if somebody gets hurt, or somebody that's doing all the dirty work to get those star players free and get their hands free.
Yeah. I mean, Marcus Claridge has kind of been the emerging star and kind of like the cool pick for this. So when you talk to a lot of people about the Vancouver Warriors this season, like, he's kind of untapped potential. He just doesn't have the ball a lot, and you see flashes when he does that he can break ankles or go to the net late in the shot clock. You take a 30 down deep and get it to Marcus Claridge with 4 or 5 seconds left, and he can beat anybody to go to the rack. And so I think he's been there. Like, there's been goals like that he has scored. So he's a guy that you can kind of, okay, we know we're going to get it from King and Charlotte Meaties, but if he can score 20-25 at the end of the season, you're going to be in pretty good stock. I don't think Ryan Sheridan's getting enough credit right now. He hasn't been scoring, but he's been doing a lot of little things to open up Curtis Dixon and Keegan Ball. Those guys aren't having the years that they are having if Ryan Sheridan's just not playing smart lacrosse and setting picks and setting seals and helping those guys find success. So, it might not be in the back of the net so far this year for Ryan Sheridan, but the little things he's done off ball have created the success for Keegan Ball and Curtis Dixon. You got a 6'4" guy banging bodies for you. Good things are going to happen.
Yeah, I think Claridge was the one that started that run to catch back up with Calgary a couple weeks ago, right, to force overtime. I think he was the first one I think it was off a face-off draw, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's just such quick feet. Yeah. He could just feed it down deep and let him go. He can cook anybody. And this is a team that's still waiting on Ryan Martel. Ryan Martel's a really good lacrosse player who is going to help get them extra possessions and make them a more dangerous team when they do get him back into the lineup, because he's a guy that can get you resets and keep your offense on the floor. They've really missed Martel, even though they've been successful the last couple of games. No question, when he's healthy, he's going to be in this lineup.
So, Coach's Calls. It's your show that you started back in 2023. You've interviewed countless faces across multiple different leagues, but do you have that white whale of somebody that you want to talk to that you haven't talked to yet?
I do. It's Bobby McMahon, who's the offensive coordinator, assistant coach to Kurt Malosky in Vancouver. And it was kind of Kurt's mentor, and Kurt's kind of had him by his side throughout his career. He's always quick to point to a lot of the things that we've learned as Mouse-isms or Kurt Malosky-isms are things that Bob McMahon has kind of said. I don't know where he got them from, but a lot of Kurt's philosophies, like calm is contagious or play where your feet are, 5-minute intervals. These are all things that Bob McMahon kind of brought to the National Lacrosse League and brought to Kurt Malosky. So there's no Kurt Malosky without a lot of the things that he's learned from Bobby over the years. Thing about Bob McMahon is that he's kind of elusive. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet when you do have a conversation with him on the floor before games or between the benches or whatever, but he's just never loved the spotlight. But I will say, I do have it. I keep receipts. I've got a text message guaranteed that he will do the podcast at some point. It's just he's a grandpa now, so he's flying home from games. He's chopping up film. He's raising grandkids in Ontario, so he doesn't have a lot of time. But he has given me the guarantee that it will happen eventually. I just have to knock down his door before the start of every season to go. Is now the time? Is now the time?
Keep sending him stuff. Maybe it'll entice him.
100%.
We'll flip to the defensive side of the ball now. Now, I've noticed this when I was getting ready for our Thursday preview show and our interview with you. Last year, this team had 7 guys in double digits of caused turnovers at the end of the year. This year, through 9 games, they only have 2, and no one is really above 5. Is this just a fluky stat, or do you think there might be something more to it?
I don't know. Do you I was gonna ask you, have you compared this with other teams? Like, are CTOs down everywhere right now?
I know for at least Buffalo's forwards, they're way down because you had Dane Smith, I think, close to 20 last year. Josh Burns still doesn't have one, so at least for Buffalo's forward group, it's down.
Yeah, and I wonder, and I don't know this. Like, I think it might just be a bit of an anomaly, or maybe they're tracking them slightly different, and they're going to be there. It's inconsistent too. And there's just so much for referees, for one thing, or for statisticians and people that count these kind of things. There's a lot of gray area. What constitutes? If a pass is coming through the middle and a defender blocks pass with a stick, but he doesn't catch it and run away with it, is that a caused turnover? Right. If it bounces off his stick and hits the ground, someone scoops it up, is that a loose ball and a caused turnover? Like, I don't know. I just think it's very subjective, and it's different. It's different building to building. So I think it's just maybe a weird glitch in the stats that we'll see bulked up going forward. Like, block shots, I think, have been read a little bit differently too. Like, everything seems to be a little bit lower. I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think players are causing turnovers at a less of a rate. And I would be shocked if Josh Byrne didn't at least cause one turnover for this season so far. So I don't know. I'm going to chalk that one up to a bit of a technical, clerical, let's call it a clerical error.
That works. Yeah, I need Josh to get one because I do this milestone minute, and he's 1 away from getting in the top 10 for the Bandits, and I've read it 9 times. It'll be 10. You've been waiting. We've got the same one on our broadcast, so I've got this nugget about Matt Beers. Like, he's supposed to be, I guaranteed at the start of the season that he was going to finish first overall in penalty minutes this year, because he was like 24 minutes away. Guys hasn't taken a penalty in like the last 3 games. It's never happened in his career. And I've got this nugget that we've just been waiting every single broadcast. I'm reading the same note. I'm like, okay, he's 24 away. And it hasn't budged all year. But that is not a clerical error. Matt Beers is just not taking penalties. We're in the same boat there then. But I asked Pete Dalladay last week when I had him on this version of this question. So I wanted to ask you, considering how many elite players and how many future Hall of Famers are on Vancouver. Now, if you were to start a new team in this league, and you had the ability to pluck one player off of each team, who on the defensive side of the ball would you grab to start your franchise from Vancouver's defense?
Oh, okay. When you teased me with this question, I was gonna go, Callum Jones, because I thought you could kind of go anywhere over the National Lacrosse League. Ryan Dilks, I think, is still one of the best one-on-one shutdown defenders in the National Lacrosse League. He's 37 years old, though. So if I'm starting my franchise tomorrow, I don't know if I'm building around Dilksy. Maybe a 24-year-old Dilksy, 1,000%. But today, Owen Grant. Owen Grant's got to be that guy. And yes, his numbers haven't been blowing up off the page this season. Again, caused turnovers are down. His block shots, his goals, assists, and points are all down too from his transition player of the year role last year. But he's playing better defense. And he's playing shutdown minutes, and he's doing the role that he's been asked for him this year. And if his role this weekend is, try to keep Dane Smith off the score sheet, or limit his touches and limit his chances so he doesn't get to the spots on the floor that he flourishes at, that's what Owen Grant's going to do first and foremost, and he's doing it really well this year. I found a nugget that we're going to share on the broadcast this weekend, hopefully, if we get to it. But Vancouver's only allowed hat tricks to 5 players all season long. So, like, star players have a tough time against Vancouver, and that's because of their defense as a whole, but a largely part to the shutdown role that Owen Grant and Ryan Dilks play for this team. Conversely, if you want, 5 is low. Okay, so Buffalo has allowed 14 hat tricks. That's the difference between the guys have big nights. Like it's been stat night a couple times a year for Andrew Q and certain players, but Vancouver has a really knack for shutting down star offensive players, and Owen Grant's a big part of that. So if I'm building a franchise tomorrow and I got one D guy to grab, I'm building around Owen Grant all day long.
Yeah, I agree. If it was league-wide, probably Callum Jones would be at the top of the list, though. But the team has been without Alex Stathakis all year long. I mean, last year is 59% from the dot as a rookie year, but the team brought in a friendly face from the Bandit land. Bandits fans might remember the name, Max Adler. I mean,
two-time NLL champion, Max Adler.
I still claim, and people will argue with me, it was when Connor Farrell scored his goal. When Max Adler won the draw and scored in overtime in Game 3 versus Colorado, that was the loudest I've heard the building when I was in it. I swear on that. But after he's announced his retirement, Kurt was able to convince him to come out of retirement for a few weeks, and the team was able to swing the deal a couple weeks ago with Buffalo. Now, he's only drawn at 36%, but welcome back to the NLL. He had to face Naso, Cap twice, Baptiste, and Inacio. Why do you believe it was so important for Kurt and Vancouver to get him in to kind of hold them over until Stathakis was back?
The team really values possession, and I know every team does, but like that's Vancouver's game. They don't like track meets. They don't like games that are back and forth and penalty filled. Like they want possession of the ball. And the face-off guy is going to be the guy who's going to give you that opportunity. They want possession of the ball after scoring a goal. So they really value the position. They don't want to just roll the dice and trot anybody out there. They truly believe that Adler was a guy that can come in and give them, 50% nights, maybe more. I don't think he's been that high percentage-wise, and maybe hasn't quite hit expectation, but the guy's been out of the game for a few minutes, right? Especially at the NLL level, going against guys that he may have never seen before or hasn't played in a long time. But they really value possession, and the way that they're running the system right now, they've got 10 D guys, 6-0, and Adler. So, it's working because it's keeping their offense in a nice rhythm. It's keeping their defense fresh, so they like what they have. It also keeps guys like Owen Grant and Reese Callies away from the faceoff circle. And you've seen that with like Mike Messenger in Saskatchewan or Courier when he was in Calgary. Like those guys that are elite transition weapons, you don't want them taking draws because it takes such a punishment on the body. And they need Owen Grant to play those number one right-handed or left-handed defensive minutes. So they don't want him taking draws. So they need to bring someone else who can fill that gap. But this is a team that really values possession. They don't want to just roll the dice and trot anybody out there for those reasons. But I do hear that Staff is coming back at some point. Like it's almost a fact that he'll be back at some point before the end of the season.
Yeah, it's never hurts to get a first-class guy like Max Adler in that locker room either. I mean,
no, and I think it'll be fun to watch him this weekend, right? Yeah. Like he hasn't played against his old team yet. He's had battles against Farrell before, so this will be what kind of insight can he draw? What does he know against the guy that he's seen a lot in the PLL this weekend at home?
So Christian Del Bianco is still doing Christian Del Bianco things. How nice has it been this year to not have to worry for 1 second about between the pipes? Because I know Aiden Walsh had a great season last year in his time there, but he was still kind of an unknown type of thing. You put Christian Del Bianco in between the pipes and you know what you're going to get night in and night out.
Yeah, it's like we talked about it, I think, last year when I was on the podcast too. It's like having a number one quarterback in football. Like you need an elite one to win, because it just gives the whole group confidence. It can bail you out during tough times. It allows your defense to get out and get on hands a little bit more, maybe take some chances and take some risks, as they know that if it's an outside shot, Christian Del Bianco is probably going to stop it, unless it's Robert Church in overtime in Saskatchewan. But that's another story. But yeah, they're happy with what they can do in front of him because they know that their defense can take some risks sometimes. Ryan Dilks can get out on hands and know that if a guy's going to set a hard pick and that guy might have a shot, that Christian Del Bianco is going to bail them out. So, we've seen it with Buffalo. We're seeing it with Georgia. We're seeing it with Dylan Ward in Colorado. Like, you only go as far, or you can go as far as your number one goaltender is going to take you. And those 4 teams are the top 4 teams in the league right now, and they've got the 4 best goaltenders in the world. And, Buffalo at times throughout their dynasty has had that. Matt Vince is the best one to ever do it. And he just has been off to a slow start kind of this year from his standards, with still a long way to go. But Del Bianco behind the net is just going to give you the confidence that you can go into any game on any given night and get bailed out and have a chance to win.
So the wife and I traveled to your neck of the woods last September. We saw what Vancouver had to offer. Let's just say we'll be back. We walked around Stanley Park, ate a ton of restaurants in Gastown, hiked up the Tunnel Bluffs, toured Vancouver Aquarium. So we'll definitely be back. I know I sent out a tweet to you asking more recommendations, so we hit up a couple of those spots. But for those that have not gotten a chance to go out to Vancouver, what are some must-see or must-do things while you're out there?
You just mentioned a bunch of them. I'm gonna say get on a ferry and come over to Vancouver Island. Come over to Victoria. Come over to Tofino, and check out what the island has to offer, because that's going to be a little bit of a different, more laid back vibe. We've got some great breweries and pub crawls here in Victoria. You drive another couple hours up the island and you can be in Tofino on Long Beach, which is one of the most beautiful beaches, kind of remote beaches on the planet, with some great food and stuff out there. You could bring a paddleboard and hit a multitude of different lakes on the drive between here and there. Victoria's got a pub scene and really good outdoor adventure type stuff. So I would say if you're spending the money to come to Vancouver, spend an extra $150 to get on the ferry and come over to Vancouver Island and explore what the island has to offer. Did you end up hitting any disc golf courses?
No, the wife wouldn't let me bring the bag, so we had to do the carry-on of all the extra stuff, so I didn't have any spot for my disc golf. Maybe next time though, because we already hit some of the big time spots.
And rentals don't cut it, right?
No, and
No.
I know Jake was probably going to give me a hard time when I told him I wasn't going to be out there, but. Well, we'll be back though. But
yeah,
I'm sorry. Bandits versus Warriors Friday night. I will be staying up. I will be one of the East Coasters to stay up till 1:00 to watch this game. A matchup that a ton of people had as a finals preview in this, preseason. In game 1 of 2 this season, how big do you think it is for one of the two teams that's going to come out ahead and get one of the head-to-head advantages here? How big do you think it is to get that first win in the win column?
I think it's going to be a huge sort of tone setter. Like for Vancouver, this is a team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year that you thought you could kind of hang with, and then they flexed on Vancouver in the playoffs and showed why they were the back-to-back champs and now the 3-time defending champs. So I think Vancouver, to be the best, you have to beat the best. I know that's a cliche, but this is a measuring stick game for them. They thought last week against Saskatchewan was a measuring stick game, and they took the other team that went to the finals all the way to OT. So they're not deflated by that loss in any means. They know that they're right there with that team, and in a 3-game series, who knows what can happen. And I think they kind of feel the same way about the Buffalo Bandits. Yes, this is a team that's below 500 right now, but they're also hungry, and they need to start stacking some wins because the schedule does not get any easier for Buffalo. They've got a murderer's row of teams coming up here, and it kind of starts now. They probably need to win 6 or 5 of their last 9 games realistically to give themselves a real good chance of getting into the playoffs. And every game you dig yourself deeper, it's going to be even tougher. So I think it's going to be tough for them to come all the way across the country after going literally from Halifax. You're going from the furthest market from Vancouver to each other, which is a wild road trip for these guys. But maybe it's one of those seminal weekend bonding road trips where they can get a good lineup together, maybe dress the same bodies 2 games in a row, which they haven't done a lot this year, and get a road trip out of the way and feel good about themselves. So Vancouver doesn't want to lose 2 games in a row. They want to be really good at home, and they want to beat the best to be the best. And Buffalo is kind of fighting for their playoffs lives right now. So there's a lot on the line for both these two teams, especially in the season series, to get that first game out of the way.
What area of Vancouver's game do you think they have the edge over the Bandits in this year?
Right now, it's defense. I think Buffalo, they're especially their right side, they could get it going, and that right side is as good as any right side in the National Lacrosse League, even without Fraser. They've got Cloutier, not Cloutier. They got Nanakoke, and they've got Buchanan, and they've got Dane Smith. It's still an elite offense. I think Del Bianco, though he's played better than Vince so far this season, two elite goaltenders that are going to raise each other's games, no question. I think Buffalo's fault this year has been their back end, and they've been a little bit banged up. But just like the Kyle Jackson game winner against Philly where he danced insane right through the team. When have you seen that?
Yeah.
Like in the last 5 years ever. That doesn't happen. They just haven't played with that physical edge like they've had. And Vancouver has. That's their game. They're physical, they're punishing, they're old school. So if you're breaking it down right now, I think Vancouver's edge is their defense.
What battle are you most looking forward to in this matchup? The Adler-Farrell one that we mentioned, Dixon and Ball versus DeSnoo, Smith and Byrne versus Dilks and Beers, Vino versus Christian Del Bianco. There's a ton of different matchups. What one is going to catch your eye the most, though?
Yeah, the goaltending one's always intriguing because you've got literally the best to ever do it against one of the best going right now in Del Bianco, if not the best. So that's a spicy one. I like these matchups, though. Like for the reason I said earlier about Vancouver, really, it's tough for someone to come into Vancouver and put up a 10-point night like Dane and Josh are accustomed to, and like those guys need to do to will this team to success this year. And I think it's going to be tough for them to do that against Owen Grant and Ryan Dilks. So I'm going to say like Owen Grant and Dane Smith and Ryan Dilks and Josh Byrne. I think those are the kind of things we want to keep an eye on, because if Dilks and Grant do what they've been doing to star players across the league all year long, then Buffalo is going to be in trouble. So can Dane and Josh find that special extra gear that they've had throughout their entire careers to destroy or to beat their one-on-one matchups this year, to switch off and get more favorable matchups and try to do some damage against this Vancouver D.
Just two more for you here. For the Warriors to get the win, this needs to happen. What is that?
For the Warriors to get the win, Dane Smith has to have less than 6 points. And that's back to that one-on-one matchup. Yeah. One-on-one matchup thing against OG or whoever he's going to have on that side.
It's very fair because he doesn't have as much depth scoring, and that's what we've been talking about. They need to go out and get another forward. But my last question, and just like last year, it's not going to be related to you or any of the lacrosse that we've talked about here. Out of all the reality and game shows out there on TV or streaming sites or wherever you want to talk about, which one would you love to be a contestant on?
You know, I couldn't remember. Did you ask me this last year?
I don't think it was this one. I think I can't remember because they change so often.
Okay, good. Because I was like, I only have like two answers, and I don't want to say the same thing twice. So my quick answer is Rock and Roll Jeopardy.
Okay.
Put me on that show. I am sweeping through every category, and I am winning the money at the end of the day. I will say the reality show I've watched most of in the last 5 weeks, I think, since it's been on, is Beast Games. So that looks like a lot of fun, like psychologically, physically. I watched that with my kids and my wife, and we're always like, hey, we could do that, and I want to try that. And $5 million, like, come on, biggest reality show of all time. So I'd love to get on there with Jimmy and the boys and compete in Beast Games.
Hey, if you got to go big, try to win the biggest prize pot that's out there.
Right? 100%.
I chose the Traders just because me and the wife have been watching that one since the inception, and I feel like I could do pretty good if I'm a trader. I don't think I would do very well as a follower, though. I think I'm pretty good at stone-faced.
I know a lot of people are getting behind that show. I haven't seen it yet, but I know that like it's everywhere, and there are a lot of people that are super into that show. And again, it's one of those like psychological ones, like how good is your poker face? And it's more mind games and personality, which is super intriguing.
Yeah, less money though, so maybe I'll go Beast Games. So, Brad,
come on the Beast Games.
Yeah, there you go. But thank you for joining us on the Buffalo Sports Collective again. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you, coaches' calls, and pretty much anything else you want to plug for the listeners?
Yeah, I'll be calling the game this weekend on TSN in Canada with Teddy Jenner and Chantal Shan. We're the Western Broadcast Crew, so we'll do it in Vancouver again and hopefully get out to Saskatoon for this year's up. And I know all the other Vancouver home games with Jake Elliott. And then Coaches Calls podcast drop every Monday morning wherever you get your podcast during the NLL season. So we're through the halfway point. We got another few episodes more to go before we head into the playoffs and all that. So yeah, every Monday morning, like and subscribe to Coaches Calls, and we'll be there as soon as you wake up on Mondays.
I saw that 2-part series with Randy Mearns.
Have you met Randy?
No, just in passing. That was it.
Okay, grab a hold of him next time you see him in the booth, because that is one of the most fun guys to have a conversation with, and yeah, just so much knowledge and especially just so much love for that Buffalo region and Canisius and St. Bonaventure, and he's touched all of it. And he's an absolute legend.
I'll do that because he's doing all the halftime shows now. He's pulling Bermel out of the box and doing the halftime with Gertler.
Yeah, push him away from the pizza and the wings and trap him in the corner for a conversation.
There you go. Thank you again for joining us on the BSC. Hope to talk to you down the road and continued success with everything you're doing.
Yeah, hopefully see you in the playoffs. Talk soon. Thanks for having me, brother.
All right. We'll be back Thursday with our normal episode of preview Bandits versus Warriors. We'll talk to you all then.